What was the highest waste of money that you don't regret? Just shy of $20,000 to go to Antarctica traveling solo small cruise ship. More than I've spent on every other vacation I've taken combined. Was one of the best trips of my life. It also gave me enough space and clarity to realize how toxic my ex was to me so that I could find the strength to leave not long after I got back. I'll always want to go back to Antarctica. The inner peace I found there changed my life. A quick 7-day trip to Maui in February a couple years ago with one of my teenage daughters, who happened to be free the same week I had off. Work was grinding me down and I needed a break. My wife and the rest of the family couldn't go, they were working or in school. The tickets were expensive, $850 each for bare-bones economy narrow rock-hard seats. It was a 12-hour flight that was packed to the brim. I was getting bedsores by the time we arrived. We rented snorkeling gear and a car, and spent every day from dawn to dusk snorkeling, sitting on the beaches and hiking in the mountains. We did the Hana Road, the 7 sacred pools in the Haleakala Volcano National Park at sunset, and took tons of photos. We ate spam musubi for breakfast, poke and somen noodles for lunch and loco moco for supper. Slept like babies with the windows open wide in the cool nighttime breezes. The best way to blow $5,000 ever. So much what I needed at that point in my life. My grandfather absolutely loves the Beatles. He listens to their music every day. He doesn't speak English, but he always tries his best to sing along. It's so endearing. I had heard that Paul McCartney was coming to town for a concert. When I checked the ticket availability, there were only a few left and they were quite pricey. Especially for me, a high school student at the time. But I was determined to get him a ticket. And I did. I decided to present the ticket to him on my birthday since the concert would be just a few days afterwards. When I gave my grandfather the ticket, he had broken into tears and hugged me so hard. I had never seen him so happy. The smile didn't leave his face for the rest of the day. Leading up to the concert, he would talk to everyone about how he was going to see Paul McCartney and that he had the most thoughtful granddaughter in the world. I spent $300 on a mule. An actual living, 4-hooved, long-eared mule. We raise cattle, so a protection mule was a good excuse. But, really, I just fell in love with him. He's huge and sassy. He'll steal your hat and run away. He's got a ninja mode where he can sneak up on you, just to breathe down your neck or startle you. He does keep the coyotes away. However, he has proved himself priceless because he eats thistle. When we got the lease on the land for our cattle, the pastures had been neglected and were in bad shape. Thistle is a spiky plant that spreads across the pasture, choking out grasses. Cows won't eat it. It's really hard to get rid of. To our surprise, the mule cleared out nearly all the thistle in a matter of months. He would eat the flowers out of the center. He saved us an enormous amount of money and labor. We were able to avoid using chemical weed killers, which we really didn't want to do. Probably the best investment in our whole cattle raising experience. Edit Loki says thanks for all the sweet comments and awards. He'll definitely be getting some extra carrots tomorrow. Edit 2 Mule Tax. My litter robot. Yes, I spent $600 on a cat shitter, but my house never smells. I don't have to scoop litter, and I only have to empty the drawer once a week. Definitely worth it to me. My fiancé and I dropped close to $3,000 on a kitchen table and coffee table from Carolina Game Tables. The kind where you can take the top off and have a board game space underneath. They're comparatively plain compared to some you see online, no lights or USB ports, no cubbies, drawers or cup holders. Just really solidly built solid wood tables where the top comes off. But hot damn, they've been awesome. We use them all the time. One unexpected use was Legos. I got a Lego set and started building it on the coffee table, and when I needed to stop for the night I just put the lid on until I was ready to continue. Don't regret a cent. In-home euthanasia for my best friend and companion. I absolutely did not have the money for it, and COVID meant I couldn't have friends to be there with me, but I couldn't bear to see her go on a cold metal table. The vet came into my apartment and gave me as much time as I needed. I read a letter I wrote, and I got to sing to Zoe in her final moments with her on my lap the entire time. 10 Best way to do the worst thing. I spent too much money on a big treadmill for a very small apartment. But I've ran 15-25 kilometers on it every week for the past several years and it's been incredibly helpful both physically and mentally. Artwork. Can I always afford it? No. But my walls are full of original, 90 local art. They make me happy to look at. I'm sure I made the artist happy too. I went to a Renaissance fair with my husband and some friends. It was his first time, and he's a pretty introverted person, so while he has fun watching everyone else dress up and act all goofy and old-timey, he doesn't really participate. When we went to buy our first beer, the wench tried to sell him on one of those big mugs that looks like it's carved out of wood but it's just plastic. It cost $100. Yes, you get free refills, But we were not planning on drinking $100 worth of beer that day. I could tell by the look on his face that he wanted it. He looked like a little kid at Disney World. Without thinking, I whipped out my credit card and dropped $100 on a shitty plastic mug. All day, he walked around proudly with his mug. He even took some big gulps and cheered huzzah once or twice. This might not seem like much, but for my quiet, gentle giant, it is huge. I manage the finances in our relationship and I am constantly cracking down on wasteful spending, so I think we were both amazed I made such a dumb purchase. 4 years later, we still have that mug. He gets a big grin every time he sees it and teases me about my irresponsible impulse. And every time I see it, I just think about how much I love that big galoot. Board games, they are expensive, but they bring much joy. My couch. I moved out of my mom's house last year 2019, so no COVID, and I always wanted a good couch. I tested so much. I went to so many furniture stores. Looked at so many different models. And then choose mine. It's actually from IKEA. 3 seats and long enough to let someone sleep on it. In a gray, but I saw they were also having a black cover, so I am thinking about getting that one. Extremely comfortable. I wanted a couch where you could chill out and love how fluffy it is without losing the ability to sit on it. In some couches you are not able to lean on the back and still have a straight back. You can sit on the backboard and the armrests. They are flat, so you can also put a cup of tea on them. It's also not too low so you don't feel like sitting on the ground, which I do strangely often compared to my love for this couch, but you can let yourself fall onto that damn thing. It also looks easy and simple. So I don't want the suggestion of someone who tried a lot of couches and happens to be me then buy the Vimmel couch from IKEA. Added oh my first award, thank you. $800 for a front seat helicopter tour of Kauai for me and my wife, totally worth it. GE Opal Nugget Ice Maker. Dang thing cost more than my car payment, but, man oh man, I love Nugget Ice and I use it the heck out of it every day. Stax headphones. About $800 in 1987, but I still listen to them and they are unbelievably good. Spending hundreds of euros on broken musical instruments because they were pretty. I have since bought spare parts and started repairing them. I found my destiny. I've been a fat guy all my life. Like, really fat. Dressing comfortably was always my preference because being stylish just isn't an option at my size. This was always a source of anxiety at any social event that required dressing up. When I realized I had 4 weddings of close friends all coming up within the year, I decided to bite the bullet and get some decent formal clothes. I spent $800 on a suit jacket, $250 on 2 pairs of dress pants, a little over $300 for 3 shirts and 3 silk ties that were between $70 and $100 each. I stood for all my measurements and had everything tailored to my exact specifications. Did a fitting and had a second round of alterations on the pants so they actually looked decent, even though I wore them under my gut. People were floored when I showed up to the first wedding. I received so many compliments and actual double takes. Being introduced to new people felt completely different. I felt impressive. Some of those weddings were the best times of my life, and it was due, in no small part, to how those clothes looked and made me feel. Some of those friends have big pictures from their weddings hanging on their walls, and I don't cringe in embarrassment when I see myself in them. Those clothes cost more than I had ever spent on clothing in any 10-year period, and they were worth every penny. $120 for a towel heater. I will never dry off with a cold towel again. Finally found the motorcycle I wanted years ago but could not get. It was not running, but after around dumping $3,500 into it and doing a full frame-up restoration and custom job on it, I have the bike I wanted years ago, but better. Yes, I did everything myself, full paint job, tank frame, fenders, everything. I also did a full engine rebuild, remade the wiring harness, everything was all done in-house. So I put a touch over $3,000 into a bike that is only worth about $1,500. On a good day, but hell, it is mine and I built it. Added here is a link to the bike at 99.5 done. I still have a few odds and ends, like I have a couple 30mm ammo cans I want to paint up and put on the 4-back. And I'm redoing the reconfiguration of the foot controls to forward controls. Being 6 feet 5 inches, it is not very comfortable at the stock placement. Have her put together. Lego Death Star. I got into a stupid fight with my brother, so I found a game he had pledged on Kickstarter, Space Haven, and saw that for $360 I could write a pre-made character bio that would randomly show up. So I pledged it and wrote a character bio with his name and made him a flaming asshole. I have never played this game and don't want to. I spent $3,000 for my wife to meet the Backstreet Boys and get front row seats. It is the best thing that has ever happened to her, and the smile on her face after the show and look of pure bliss in someone who suffers often from anxiety was worth every cent. Dining at a Michelin-starred restaurant in Milan. We had an 18-course meal with wine pairings for like $400 or so. Added for those asking, the restaurant is Joya. It's vegetarian, but it looks like it still exists and isn't much more expensive than when I was there 10 years ago. The extra I pay in rent for a water view completely worth it. My wife and I were on our honeymoon in London in 2016. We had just gotten an influx of cash from friends and family, and we went out to dinner at the Savoy Grill. They had an absurdly overpriced tasting menu with the option of overpriced wine pairings. We ended up dropping about $600, and it was honestly the best meal I've ever had. The service was off the charts, with little stories about each course and its accompanying wine, and they had the timing down perfectly. Just a fantastic experience from top to bottom, and if we didn't do it then on our honeymoon with a bunch of free money, we were never going to do it. Back in 2017 my family went on a road trip to Minnesota to visit my Nana shortly before she passed. During our stay me and my little sister went to the Mall of America and bought whatever the fuck we wanted. Big ice cream cones? Lego store souvenirs? Tickets to the aquarium? Fare for every indoor amusement park ride? A doll from the American Girl store and eating an expensive lunch in the store with your new doll sitting at the table with us? Fuck yeah little sis, it's all yours. I dropped over $300 in that one mall trip, but damn it was one of our best shopping days ever. We still talk about it to this day. When I was younger I came into a sum of about $15,000. I wasn't very careful with the money, and other than putting $5,000 down on car, I blew the money here and there. But what I put the largest amounts toward were friends in need. I paid one friend's power bill just before it got shut off. I helped another friend keep her water on. I never could keep my hands on money for long, but I don't regret having wasted it helping friends. €600 for an hour of laps, 3 of 20 minutes each around the Nürburgring in Germany. It was open in the off-season and there wasn't a single other car near me the whole time. 10/10 one of the most thrilling experiences of my life. Added I rented a car at the track, which is why it was so much. You can bring your own car or rent one there, but they don't allow commercial rental cars. Individual laps were I think €20 each at the time. Due to poor insulation and distance from the water heater, my shower is never properly warm in winter. I just bought a single endpoint tankless water heater for just my shower. Best $150 I ever spent. Could I really afford it? No. Did I need it? No. Do I love it? You bet your sweet bippy I do. The summer after graduating high school, I won a decent amount of money playing online poker. Since I wasn't going off to college and all of my friends were, I decided to buy them all ridiculous going away gifts. A carpet, mailbox, toilet seat etc. were among the gifts. The most expensive and ridiculous gift I bought on a whim was a massive wheel of cheese, somewhere between $200,000 and $300. Little did I know at the time, that cheese wheel would set off a yearly event called Cheesegiving, where our entire much larger now with spouses and kids friend group gets together to celebrate and partake in cheesy goodness. This year was our 17th, unfortunately all virtual due to COVID, and I genuinely hope it never ends. I got $27,000. And spent it on a solo cross-country road trip that led to me moving on the complete opposite side of the country from everyone I've ever known. I was in a dark place in my head. The original plan was to find a nice place to end my story, but the trip itself helped me reconsider, so absolutely no regrets to speak of. Edit didn't really expect this to receive this much notice. Thank you for the awards, and I'm sorry if I can't reply to them all. I'm currently kind of swamped. Dyson blow dryer. It's worth every penny. I have long hair down to my waist. It only takes me about 3 minutes to dry it. When my mom was diagnosed with cancer a year after my dad died cancer, I went to the animal aid thrift shop, bought a bunch of odd dishes, put down a drop cloth, and threw them at my house while screaming bloody murder. I don't regret 1 second of that temper tantrum or one dime I spent to make it happen. I eventually made a couple of beautiful mosaics out of the pieces. And my mom is 6 months cancer-free. Edit holy crap y'all. Thanks, I'm going to do my level best to respond everyone tomorrow. I just assumed this would get buried. Reddit is kind of where I get out some of my sad so I can be there for my family. I legit have no idea what to do with awards. Throw your money at pancreatic cancer research for my dad maybe? And yeah, I'm sure it's been in lots of movies. I cribbed the idea of breaking stuff from my favorite professors talking about breaking windows in an abandoned church after a house fire. Also, if my husband and sister have figured out who I am from this. Hi? Nobody was actually supposed to read it? Edit 2 art tax. I feel like I should qualify that the one I made is beautiful to me lol. Travel. I've never regretted spending money on travel. Those are some of my favorite memories. I can't wait to be able to travel again. Visiting the NBA Finals while being an intern in the US. I'm from Germany originally. Tickets were $300 each, had to drive back the 3 hours from Cleveland to Detroit at night to show up at work the next day, but damn, I'll never forget KD hitting the three-pointer 45 seconds before the end. I bought my own tuxedo. It's $1,000, 1,200 minutes by the time you get good shoes, shirt, bow tie, etc. for it. I hardly wear it, but goddamn do I look good in it compared to a rental. I also spent $20 on a mustard yellow hat that has Big Cheese written in red stitching on it. Only busted out for the really big occasions. Edit picture of Big Cheese hat edit 2. Apparently you can buy these at a Murray's Cheese shop and some Kroger markets. There is also a link in a comment below to buy online. Exactly 1 year ago I got my private pilot license. So much money went into it, and now it costs a lot of money to keep it by flying. I don't regret it at all. Very cool feeling to go flying at it, to have an excuse to fly. My friend and I started posting flying stuff on YouTube so that we can laugh at ourselves. I bet two 50-years-old dudes 200 used each, that they wouldn't kiss each a bar, in a deeply red, Midwestern town. And yes, they did 60 seconds. $300 hand-sewn Starfleet jacket. Went to a con with a seamstress and had her inspect the jacket. Her verification that it was quality work was the deciding factor. Spent like 30 minutes on the phone with the bank trying to prove this was me throwing away $300 in one go at a con 3 hours from my address. I think I spent around $1,000 on gifts over the last holiday season, including Secret Santa stuff on Imgur. Last year I got a really well-paying job and I'm finally glad to be able to give back to people. I bought the $350 Lego Ghostbusters Firehouse 5 years ago. I was a huge Lego kid in the 1980s and loved Ghostbusters. When they announced the set I told my wife that I was buying it. Ridiculous expense be damned. It is set up in my home office and will never come down. Pick for those who are asking. Yes, it is dusty. We just had work done that made a mess. This may not feel like much to some, but it was important for me. I got divorced in my late 20s and I bought an eHarmony subscription to help me date again. This was before free apps were a thing. It was way more money than I could afford at the time, but it helped me realize that I was wanted and people would be happy to get to know me and date me. It helped me move on from an emotionally abusive situation to repair my sense of self-worth. I'm a graduate student. I bought a $200 globe that opens up to put my booze inside. No regrets. I spent $56,000 on college for a degree I don't use, but I met my husband there, so I really can't complain. If I divide that over the nearly 25 years we've been married and consider that he's the best of dudes, it is a pretty good deal. I just paid our full $8,000 healthcare deductible to send my wife to rehab. We're getting divorced and my lawyer told me I didn't have to pay for it, but she wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. $8,000 is a small price to pay for her hopeful sobriety and treatment of her mental health issues. At a home inspector's recommendation, I had 2 sump pumps installed in our home's basement in case of water penetration. It was expensive not only to buy the sump pumps, but also to have the pump pits drilled and electric service supplied. Year after year, those pumps have never kicked in. But they're there, ready to go, just in case. This may not seem like a lot of money to some, but I weighed at 287 pounds. I lost 100 pounds and my reward was a 300.00 pair of Frye boots. I had been drooling over them for years and finally scrimped and saved to buy them. I told my husband it was my food money. Lol. It was actually my cigarette money. I had quit smoking a year before that but still faithfully put away 7.00 a day. I figured that I could always find cigarette money when I smoked, so I will keep finding it to save. I bought a Nintendo Wii that way too. I have never regretted using those boots. I love them. Let me add a note: I had help losing the weight. I had lap band surgery, which in of itself is another struggle. The weight came off pretty fast and now it's a bit of a struggle to keep it off. My greatest fear is gaining it back. I have a couple of sisters that had gastric bypass and gained their weight back. So that terrifies me. I am still about a size 14, which to me is healthy. I'm happy with that. Friends spent $30 on a jukebox to play I Whip My Hair back and forth on loop for an hour in a bar. The bartender unplugged the machine. A new car. I bought a Toyota Camry in 2016. Everyone told me I was crazy. We were in an accident on Thanksgiving 2020 with a drunk driver. That car saved mine and my husband's life. I don't regret it at all. I spent about $6,000 on MC DJ for my wedding. But he was the most professional MC I've ever met. He coordinated all the sound with the videographer, the caterers around the speeches, pre-planned all music and mixed songs to be the perfect length. I didn't worry about a thing on the day. My older sister is obsessed with the Witcher games, so I paid the main character's Geralt's voice actor to wish her a happy birthday. Edit: I didn't expect this to blow up, holy shit. For those who asked. It was around €40 on Cameo, but I am very broke student. So for me that's expensive. And some people consider it wasted money because it's nothing physical and it's just a dude talking. But yeah, I feel like it's cooler than having her little sister just tell her every year how much she appreciates her. Voice actor seems like a really cool dude. He even made the effort to pronounce her name right. We speak Dutch and it's joke. As silly as that sounds, edit 2 since a friend told me about my post blowing up. If you know us personally, don't mention it to her. She doesn't use Reddit, but her B-day is only in a few weeks. Edit 3 PFF. So many of these comments are sweet and funny, we'll definitely show them to her on her B-day. When I tell this to anyone, they think I might have overspent or wasted. So here we go. Spent around $3,000 for my parents' 25th anniversary. I gave them 25 gifts each day, and the last few days' gifts were pretty grand. The reaction I received from them makes it so worth it. My first university degree, but it was really my parents' money that I wasted. I don't do anything related to it now. I went back to get the degree that I wanted and everyone told me would be a waste of my potential afterwards. I now work in that field and love it. Moving away from home was one of the best things that happened to me because it allowed me to grow a lot as a person. And also my road bike. $4,000, but I love every second on it. This is going to get buried, but paying the adoption fee for the oldest longest resident cat at shelters, cat rescues. I think I am up to about $8,000 in adoption fees. For a bit of background, my job allows me to travel an insane amount, usually about 200 days a year, and one of my hobbies is going to cat cafes. I've been to 56 around the world. Because I was making stupid amounts of money, on top of getting a per diem, access to catering 3 times a day and living very frugally, I had a lot of extra cash. So I would visit cat cafes, which are usually partnered by rescue groups, or go to local shelters. I would spend time with the cats and anonymously pay for the adoption fee of the cat who was the oldest or been there the longest. A few times I paid for transportation arrangement for cats from high-kill shelters as well. Also, sometimes when we would stay in hotels of tiny little towns that were clearly low income, I would leave $100 at whatever small restaurant I ate at. I always made sure to slip out before they noticed. X200B at a thanks for the gold and silver. You guys rock. However, if I may request, please save your coins and donate to your local shelter and DNR groups in your communities. They need it so much more than me. If you can't donate, consider fostering, or offering support through social media. Paw boost when animals are on the kill list and need help being pulled, or by donating clean bedding that you no longer need. Above all, spay and neuter your pets and animals in your community. Edit 2 as YouKissKitty65 pointed out, you can also call your local vet and ask if they have a fund you can donate to for owners who can afford unexpected procedures, and the only other option is to put them to sleep. I once bought 30 pounds of candy. I was engaged to my high school sweetheart when I was in the military. She had about $5,000 in credit card debt that had been hanging over her, so I took care of it for her during my first tour in Iraq. I had no bills of obligations, why not? Well, I spent another $4,000 or $5,000 coming home on leave mid-tour and furnished our apartment her before going back down range. When my deployment tour ended, I came home and had to find out from my sister that some other dudes were seeing my fiancée, and one had been living in the apartment with her the better part of 6 months. When she found out I was back, she ghosted me. Changed locks, etc. Her mother apologized to me in the neighborhood grocery store. I regretted it for a long time. Mostly being angry. But I don't regret it anymore. It was a far less painful lesson than the ones I've seen men in their 40s come to terms with. At least I got my medicine in my 20s. $500 on a home inspection. Revealed a whole bunch of problems that would have cost us thousands to fix. Always get an inspection. $9,000 on a hot tub and its installation. I use it probably 2x a day, and for those 30-40 minutes I am almost completely pain-free, sometimes bordering on euphoria. Added for those concerned about my procreation opportunities. I don't want any more children except for the 4-legged kind. Hopefully my nearly grown children will be able to leave the nest soon. Playful face. Also, my children would probably tell you having my DNA is a mixed blessing at best. Edit 2 I should have said those concerned about my fertility. I would almost apologize to those who were offended thinking I was talking about sexual acts. Please know that most of my offensive comments are intentional, and I sort of wish I had said something more disturbing. My divorce. My wedding dress probably. If you are counting waste as only wore it for 12 hours. It was about $650, but it is the most beautiful thing I have worn, ever will wear. My first paycheck I bought a $900 wedding cake. Me and my brother had no way to get it home since it didn't fit on our skateboards. We just had a cake fight in the parking lot. My brother passed away shortly after that. I still think about that day whenever I'm sad. Added for everyone asking, I worked as a window cleaner. It rappelled down the side of 30-story buildings. I finally spent high bank and got a super pricey Predator 1440 monitor for my PC. Wow. Worth it. GPUs and frame rates are what I thought I wanted. But oddly the best video upgrade is actually the thing that displays the video. Who knew? LOL. I spent some savings on a really nice used motorcycle about 2 months into the 2020 lockdown, May 2020. Went on rides every weekend on back roads into the country until the winter kicked in. This kept me sane and was very mentally therapeutic. Don't regret spending the money at all. Currently winter, so I have the bike but can't ride until it warms up again. Going a little stir crazy, but the first day it's warm I am riding my Nintendo Switch. It's the Animal Crossing edition and I just needed it. I bought kitty ear headphones. I'm not a streamer. I'm also a guy. I like my kitty ear headphones. I spent $3 on this 2 feet tall alien action figure and I hid it behind my husband's monitor. He still hasn't found it yet, even though the alien's little feet are sticking out from underneath it. His favorite movie is Aliens. My Mill was with me when I bought it and she asks weekly if he's found it yet. Best $3 I ever spent. Other than that, I don't waste money other than door dashing food every now and then. I grew up dirt poor, so I save every penny I can. Edit because so many people asked here are the feet. He still hasn't noticed and it has been several weeks. I spent $5,000 I barely had for emergency surgery for my dying dog, knowing the outcome was likely to be his death regardless. He still died. I would do it again. He was my best friend and I know I did everything humanly possible to help him. I bought a $100 Christmas tree stand after my Walmart Christmas tree stand couldn't handle the absolutely chunktacular Christmas tree my wife wanted. I got so pissed I went on Amazon and found this German-engineered tree stand that cost a little over $100. This year, because of how terrible it was, she needed an even bigger tree to soothe her 2020 woes. And this fucking German Christmas tree holder was a goddamn champion. I mean, wow. The tree we got was over 12 feet tall. It took 4 guys to pull it through the baling machine. And when me and my neighbor dragged it into my house we damn near broke our backs. But the German-engineered Christmas tree stand was exactly as advertised. I might even buy a bigger one next year. Just to see what the limits are. Got an Apple IIe computer from the early 80s in 2019. Rarely use it, but love that it's there. Edit I put a picture of it on my profile if anyone is interested in seeing what it looks like. My keyboards. Do they magically type by themselves? Do they do stuff that much better than a $20 rubber dome, or even a $100 mechanical keyboard? Not at all. But I absolutely love typing on them. The sound soothes my soul and my slight wrist pains have subsided. Plus it's a fun rabbit hole to dive into. I can't ever tell my friends or family how much I spend on them though. Edit this is my current collection of keyboards. RS credit comments KV1S4A. What was the highest waste of money that you don't give? WF Edit 2 current daily driver is a sofa with Gazubo by U4 switches 62 grams and MT3 wide on black keycaps. Edit 3 shout out to our Ergomech keyboards and our mechanical keyboards. $11,000-ish for a rug. It was a total impulse buy, but it is hand knotted from 100, all natural, hand-dyed wool. It's massive and took about 18 months start to finish for it to be made. I love it. Embarrassed smiley face. I spent $30,000 on my new show horse. He's the easiest, most chillest, athletic horse I've ever owned, and we are ranked second in the nation right now. Honestly, he was a steal of a deal and worth every penny. Sold everything. Bought a sailboat. Moved my family of 5 onto it and spent 2 years cruising the Eastern Caribbean with them. No idea what the total cost was, well north of $100K. But was worth every penny. Soon to be my RTX 3080 or RX 6800 XT if the stock situation allows me to burn my money. I've traveled to 60 countries so far in my life, some for work but most were self-financed when I lived abroad. I feel very lucky for all those memories, especially now that I can't really travel anywhere. I was really depressed and didn't want to do dishes, so I threw out like 5 plates and a bunch of cups. Really depressed and just bought new ones. $1,600 or so on a snowblower after my shovel broke. A racing wheel for video games. I haven't used it a lot so far, but the few times I did use it, it was awesome and immersive as F. Although traveling may not be deemed a waste of money, what I did while traveling was considered, by many of my family friends, a waste. When I was 22, I decided that I wanted to take a little trip out of town. Alone. Saved up about a little over $1,000 from working my lousy minimum wage retail job, bought a plane ticket, flew out. All of my loved ones recommended NYC, LA, Miami, etc., but I didn't want that. I wanted somewhere that was the complete opposite of what I come from, was not a popular tourist destination, at least from what I would hear. So I picked Salt Lake City, Utah. Flew out. Got a cheapy motel room in a bad side of town, just walked around as if I was a normal resident of the area. I didn't care for flashy tourist hotspots. I wanted to see what life somewhere else was an amazing experience. Native Texan like me had never seen snow or mountains. Sure, Mormons galore, but who cares? They were just as friendly as the folks who weren't religious whom I'd interact with, at least. The most walking I'd ever done, too. I'll never forget getting lost while walking all around Provo in the middle of snow, freezing my buns off, wearing a pair of Chucks. Best day. Motel expenses, flight expenses, other garbage I bought there. I came home with $350 in my checking account. Loved ones asking out of all places to go, "You picked a boring place like that?" No regrets. Life-size movie prop of Han Solo frozen in carbonite I purchased in the late 90s. It cost more than the car I drove at the time. The car died a long time ago. Han sits behind my desk in my office, and I enjoy it every day. $900 to fly across the country to visit an ex. I realized she really didn't care about me anymore as soon as I saw her eyes. We had dinner and chatted. It helped me let go and move on. Haven't spoken to her since. Rarely think about her anymore. Well, I just spent $72 on Girl Scout cookies. 4 years ago I spent $1,300 on a holiday which I was meant to go on with my ex. We broke up 4 months before the holiday was due because she cheated. I told her about it and she almost cried because she would miss it. It was to a place she wanted to go to so bad. Instead of going by myself, I spent $163 to go to a neighboring country to visit a FWB. Me and that FWB have been in a relationship since, and we got married a month ago. Now we are saving up to get a house and a baby. My wedding shoes. I've always loved designer clothes and shoes, but I was always way too poor to afford them. My husband and I were paying for our own wedding, so we were on a tight budget again. I spent days researching which designer shoes were the most comfortable, because I wanted to make sure I could wear them more than once, and they also had to be tall because I wanted to be almost face to face with my 6 feet 4 inches husband when we said our vows. I eventually found the most gorgeous pair of Jimmy Choo platform wedges that were absolutely perfect, and they were only $150 used on eBay. After I bought them, the recommended products based on your purchases section showed a pair of neon pink Prada wedges that weren't perfect for the wedding, but I loved them because neons are my favorite. And they were brand new and only $80. I showed them to my husband and he dutifully rolled his eyes at me, but saw how much I wanted them, so he suggested I should get them for the reception and honeymoon. Our wedding was the perfect excuse to get them, and I'll probably never be able to buy shoes that expensive again. I bought both pairs and I still love them both, and I still wear them several times a year. I feel like such a fancy bitch when I wear them. Okay, a little background first, but growing up our family was dirt poor. You think poor and go down like 3 levels and you'll probably hit closer to the truth. It was common to go without food. We lived by the fairgrounds in Spokane, and so when the fair came to town we'd break in and walk the fairgrounds, not being able to buy food, ride rides, etc. Generally we went so that we could help them tear it down, and often the carnies would toss us a couple bucks for helping. Later in life I became a drafter and got my first bonus. This was in 1990 and I got $1,000. I felt like a millionaire. Incomparable today? It's about $2,000. So I took that grand to the fair and spent it all. At the end of the night I had a bunch of tickets for rides left over that I handed a kid with the shoddiest clothes I could find. Told him to have a great night. This was after I'd been on all the rides, vomited twice and had a tote bag full of meaningless trinkets. P.S. Sorry I'm not super rich and gave you a cool, I bought a yacht and exploded it story. Simple person, simple life. Spent around $7,000 trying to save my dog. She needed 2 surgeries and lots of overnight hospital care and all the imaging and testing. She didn't make it, but I could never forgive myself if I didn't try. It's been over a year now and I miss her all the time. Rest in peace, Jude. My goofball Lego slave eye. It's on display at the moment. My Mandalorian armor. Even in a year without conventions, I fucking love it. Taking my young child to Disney World twice. The joy and memories can never be replaced. 4 years ago I won some money and decided to take my dad on the trip of a lifetime to Las Vegas. I spent a lot of money on the 10 hours flights and the beautiful Wynn Hotel for a week. My boyfriend and best friend came too. The day we got there I started to feel unwell. Came down with a horrendous virus, even having to get paramedics to the room because I was so unwell. I spent the entire week in bed and couldn't eat any of the free buffets we got. Meanwhile my 73-year-old father had the frickin' time of his life with the 2 guys. Amazing dinners, helicopter to Grand Canyon, trip to Zion Park. He talked about it for months afterward and still says it was the greatest trip of his life. It took me almost 3 years to get over the virus, which ended up giving me a chronic disease, but it was worth it.